Hi everyone, my name's Lori and I'm an intuitive astrologer um, who is the owner of Three Keys Astrology. I also read for Astrolata, so please check out both of those websites and my services. Born today on October 14th, 2021 is a new series I'm beginning called Crimes, Critters, and Cruelty. It is an astrological and psychological perspective and analysis of such people who commit crimes that I'm calling critters. So today, welcome to the first edition. And the person that we're going to be exploring is an attorney um, who has um, used malicious maneuvers and manipulations to try to curl the law. So this person's name is Alex Murdaugh. He's currently in the news, um, making lots of news actually. His family, as early as February 19th, 2019, when his son, Paul, who we will be doing an astrological analysis as well as the characters that I'm going to briefly introduce you to today. As an astrologer, I've done legacy readings because just like genetic evidence in the familiarity we see in family spaces, um, characteristics, behaviors, traits, even gait, and such other things, astrology proves that there's cosmological DNA, if you will, that repeats in family patterns. Alex Murdaugh was the great grandson um, of what became an established law firm when his great grandfather founded this Murdaugh, and their last name is spelled Murdaugh. They reside in the Low Country in South Carolina, and for a century, the men in his paternal lineage have been in charge of the prosecutor's office. His great-grandfather, his grandfather, and father, who recently died at age 81 in intensive care. Um, 11 days, let me think, 4 days after his wife and difficult, deranged son, Paul, were horrifically murdered at their hunting compound on June 7th, 2021. Back to the saga of the characters that I'll be analyzing in this very diabolical and demented tale, where Alex Murdaugh is in the scope of the public worldwide. As an astrologer, you'll find this very interesting. I teach astrology, so please go look for those links on my website. I teach one-on-one because I think it's such an important study and analysis of this 4,000-year-old science. So in this case, Alex Murdaugh has a very strong connection to the planet Mars, as does the people for whom he was born onto. In the astrology chart, we look at the fourth house for roots and ancestry, and we begin there to see some of the characteristics and patterns of time gone by, relatives gone by, and what we inherit, as well as the nodes of the moon. Alex Murdaugh has Libra in his house of ancestors, what we define as the IC in astrology. And indeed, Libra, the deliberator, is always very interested in law and fairness. But he's got some very compromising and very beneficial links to this legal legacy. That is, because of this 100-year-old law firm, Murdaugh, because of the interests and education and fate of his great-grandfather. Alex Murdaugh is 52 years old, and the planet Mars is the made of the reason it's a red planet is because of the geological material iron. Iron ore is a reddish material, and if you've ever been to Sedona, Arizona, you'll see this iron ore. People born with strong stelliums in Mars, triple conjunctions, sun moon rising sign, often have a ruddy complexion and red hair. Alex Murdaugh has Mars at the top of his chart, and that red tone you'll see because I'm going to use his face and picture as the thumbnail for this video that I'm producing. The other thing we astrologers without birth times have to do, um, um, make assessments for birth time. Alex Murdaugh's got a moon face. Moon faces have silvery skin, and this can be Cancer rising. I share this with Alec Murdaugh. Alec Murdaugh's the most recent sagas that came to light in the news began with his now deceased son Paul, who was murdered on the same day as his own mother, Alex Murdaugh's wife and son, killed June 7, 2021. On June 11th, his father died in intensive care, unrelated to the horrific murder scene thus far. There's a lot of speculation. There's speculation into former misgivings and misconduct that involve insurance fraud, that involve theft. He's currently being sued. Alex Murdaugh is currently being sued by the law firm for which he practiced law by his peers. And for those of us that weren't born yesterday and didn't come in yesterday's mail, 3 of his relatives in the law firm that we'll discuss in later videos as we go on with this family saga of crime, corruption, and wielding Lady Justice. Can't do that. Can't do that. It's unethical. He's been disbarred. His license is currently taken away at this time while he's being arrested for several crimes, insurance fraud, and the family law firm with 3 members of his family are suing him to save their asses and their assets. Make no mistake. Those of us that aren't schooled in the law, there's lots of people turning and twisting and weaving and weaving and knitting and crocheting themselves into corners. And so is the story of Alex Murdaugh. So we see this character with a silvery moon face, but Mars is a significant planet in his chart. So is the planet Saturn. Now, Saturn has some of its connections to the law because it's authority. Alex Murdaugh, the whole energy of his personality is held together. He's stitched together by the very cold energy of Saturnian authority. And make no mistake, when I look at his father's chart, we'll see father and son early difficulty. It shows over and over again in his chart. He has a burned Mercury, and this is called combust Mercury in astrology. He's got a sun, moon, and Mercury in the 12th house of secrets. And being on the fringes of society, whenever we see somebody with a burned Mercury, that's that child was reprimanded and he wasn't really heard by his father. The son, his father, and this lineage that he was born unto, that he inherited, came with a lot of authority, and it came with a lot of prestige, and it came with a lot of expectations, is the best word. When you have a burned Mercury, this means your mind has skewed viewpoints. It's not clear. In his case, his mind is burned from the point of conception. At his birth, it would be that unto this family of alcoholism, drug abuse, and paternal favor. We see this often in rich families where entitlement ends up going so wrong that all kinds of people are left in the wake of these people's cruelty. And again, I'm calling this series Crimes, Critters, and Cruelty because, oh my God, every single time in crime, there indeed are splashes and colors of cruelty over and again. And so is the case in this situation. So at present, with his father being deceased on June 11, he's the king, if you will, the highest person alive in the paternity of Murdaugh in his own personal family. His wife and son were murdered on June 7th, found at the hunting compound. The wife was shot with an assault rifle. The son was shot with a shotgun to the head and stomach. He's the one that reported the crime. Not um, within months of that incident, he paid his best friend and someone for whom he represented legally in some kind of an injury suit. He paid his best friend to shoot him in the head so that his living son, his only living son, would inherit a $10 million insurance policy. Murdaugh knows how insurance claims are handled legally. He's done this for his lifetime. And his chart actually shows a beautiful configuration to Pluto, but some conflicting ones as well, in that Pluto, of its high calling, does help transform. And clearly, over and over again, very interestingly, we can see in his chart that he's he has helped people. And there's a sick and twisted, weird, kind of sadomasochistic flavor that keeps showing up over and over again in his actions, in his legal dealings as a licensed lawyer down in the Low Country in South Carolina, in Hampton, South Carolina. His combust Mercury, though, is a twisted mind. And when you twist the law to be in your favor and try to control Lady Justice, ultimately you'll be found out. And he's experiencing not only a huge fall from grace, but he's facing several criminal charges for embezzlement in the family law firm. But again, three of family members work in that law firm where he was stockholder and employee. And again, saving asses, saving assets. He is also tied to a very suspicious murder when the family housekeeper of 20 years, in a so-called accidental death of falling down the stairs to her fatality, the late Gloria Satterfield, the Murdaugh's maid, was killed, was found dead, I should say. Their son, who was murdered, was an angry young man. We'll be discussing his chart for sure because on February 19th, 2019, in a drunken and maniacal accident of mayhem on a river in a boat with a bunch of his friends, a young Mallory Beach was killed when, in a drunken escapade, he was driving his boat in the dark and she was thrown overboard and killed. Paul Murdaugh, Alex Murdaugh's son, who was only 22 at the time of his death and only 19 when he was in a drunken rage, high on all kinds of alcohol and opiates, was on trial for murder of Mallory Beach and would have seen justice, faced it in September. That never came to be because he was shot in the head and stomach beside his mother on the hunting compound, where his now criminal father and disbarred lawyer was the first witness. They're also tied to a very sad story of a young man named Stephen Smith, whose peculiar death in 2015. This teenager was gay, and his mother, I think, had 6 children, and they were poor. And Murdaugh, Alex Murdaugh, was the baseball coach on this team. Alex's brat son of entitlement and privilege, who manipulated and wielded his power over and over again because he had, remember, 3 relatives in the prosecutor's office. His great-grandfather, his grandfather, and father all, at certain points in their career, worked at the prosecutor's office and wielded the power of what would kind of law would be upheld in this town in South Carolina in the Low Country. and I'm sure across the state because there's long arms of the law, corrupt or not. So this young boy was found on the side of the road with his knees up to his chest in an uncompromising position where it's likely that he was raped. That's how he was found dead on the side of the road. The medical examiner is being questioned now because she insisted the accident was a hit and run accident, even though this young boy's mother, Stephen Smith, said, "My son never walked on the side of the road in the dark." He was a nemesis of Paul Murdaugh, Alex's deranged son, involved in Mallory Beach's murder. And the boy was indeed beaten to death with a baseball bat. No one performed a rape kit, but it's highly suspect in the position his body was found and with the evidence that this medical examiner insisted that no one else question or examine. Was under the guise of the prosecutor's office. She's hired by them. Murdaughs were in charge. So this ugliness pervades, and crime pervades, and evil pervades. And as I said in this astrological analysis and series, if enough of you are interested, feel free to put in the comments below some of the other family tragedies, and it's got to be crime, that you know about. And we'll take a look at that. And in my past, in a former occupation, a long time ago in a faraway land, I had some benefits for some people that kind of stirred up. Let's take a little closer look at some of these investigations. And that's my point for this. Astrologically, I'm very interested in history. I've gone back to the early 1700s in my readings for ancestry, and I guarantee you, over and again, we see repeated patterns cosmologically that have to do with our traits, our characteristics, and our behaviors in everyday life. We're all born with a soul purpose, and we all meet fate. That's just the way God designed life. So let's talk a little bit about Alex Murdaugh, astrologically. He's a 52-year-old man currently, and he has his sun, moon, and his rising sign in the 12th house with a burned Mercury. I explained that already. His rising sign is Cancer, and he's got the energy of Mars to Saturn holding a person's energy is very hot and very cold. Mars is hot. It's a fire planet. Interestingly, at the top of his chart, squaring his ascendant, which is proving in real time his fall from grace. Mars rules weapons and gunshots and fire. Alcohol is fire in the body. He's now claiming that he's an opiate addict, and the prosecutor is not buying it, the current prosecutor, in his case against him, because somebody that's that heavily into drugs could not practice law, could not stand before the court in an ethical debate, whether for or against whatever the legal matter. So, again, welcome to this first edition of Crimes, Critters, and Cruelty. Our subject today is Alex Murdaugh. Alex Murdaugh. He has a 12th house triple conjunction, Sun, Moon, Mercury combust in Gemini. Now, if you're interested in this complex, it's the Geminian complex. And I described this Geminian complex when I was analyzing Ghislaine Maxwell's chart for her current upcoming trial. And again, where did she come from? How did she arrive at the personality she is? In that analysis that you can find on Astrolada's channel, I don't think I put it on my Three Keys Astrology channel. You'll see the preview where I discuss Robert Maxwell, who mysteriously died, who had a significant Geminian complex, as does Alex Murdaugh. So go check out that video. Maybe I'll link it at the end of this video so you can find it if you're interested in crime, personality, and psychology of these deranged and demented human beings. So he's got his Mars and Jupiter squaring his ascendant, and this is definitely the signature of arrogance and of superiority. His Mars is at the top of his chart, and he did fight for legal justice, but it's opposite his family lineage in Libra, this legacy that his great grandfather established 100 years ago. So he's the heir apparent. He is an attorney founded by his great grandfather Murdaugh down in South Carolina in the Low Country. He is the son of Randolph III Murdaugh, who, as I said, died days after his wife and son were found murdered, and he was the one that found them. So Sun, Moon, Mercury in the 12th, this Geminian complex of two faces. The 12th house is a hidden house of secret enemies, of being on the fringes of society, and absolutely can entail hidden drug use. Gemini is a twin. That's the example when the most powerful sun, moon, your parents, and the child you are, the way you think, the way you communicate, your I am, and your feelings, because your feelings equal your thoughts and equal eventually your behavior, and behavior is proven by Mars. He's got a square here in astrology, and this means conflict, inner conflict when it has to do with the sun and the moon. Absolutely inner conflict with authority. He didn't like the way his dad handled him when he was a young boy. His feelings were shut off, curtailed, and this entailed frustration, impulse, and ultimately, in his case, alcohol and drugs. He's got three squares and to his midheaven, his reputation in the world at large, and how other people see him. And while we're watching this fall from grace in real time, two quincunx. Now his south node is attached to his Mars. This is an indication the nodes of the moon are about fate and what we inherit from past lives, if you believe in that, and I do. He's got a 0 degree Pluto in Virgo. If you watched my analysis of the conservatorship of Britney Spears on July 14th on astrolata.com, you'll know that I predicted what indeed happened in September. I said, Britney's going to have to deliver herself from her parents, and it's going to happen. She's finally going to be free of the corruption that was this maligned conservatorship for a woman that was clearly not mentally debilitated or physically debilitated, or she would not have been able to make that kind of money. So you can find that video too. A 0 degree planet and a 0 degree ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and IC indicate those are the constructs of life. They're the bones of the chart. When you have 0 degrees, zero is nothing and everything. It's the alpha, the omega. It is saturates every other planet in the chart. And his Pluto, we're watching this diabolical and malevolent Pluto in this paradox of the family has helped thousands of people, I'm sure, over the last century that were maimed, that were harmed, that were involved in injury, because his chart clearly shows that all of this beautiful grace, that he's going to help the wounded, he's going to help the downtrodden, he's going to help others. He's got some really beautiful nature God given in his life. But the malefic planets, Saturn, Mars, and Pluto in a compromising position, along with its 12th house stellium in this Geminian conflict, prove a very two-faced individual, somebody that's hiding another side to himself, and always, and like his son, not always hiding it. When we meet the sons of the wealthy, the entrepreneur who makes his mark in the world is often someone we can admire and look up to, but the sons of those sons of those sons in entitled privilege often are very twisted in this power that they think they've inherited by name, by legacy, by billions and billions of dollars, because make no mistake, this family is wealthy. Um, Murdaugh has his Venus in Taurus, and it's squared by Uranus, shocking things. And Taurus is the realm of land, property, inheritance, money, 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 money. They have big money, it's old money, it's favor, it's prestige. He's got his Venus squared by Chiron, the wounded healer. So he's curtailing favor and manipulating insurance policies In the case of that maid, God rest her soul, Gloria Sutterfield, he said to her son, sue me, because she fell down the stairs, so-called, probably didn't. Rumor has it, and it's being investigated, that his son actually pushed her. His angry, diabolical son, who was drunk and high all the time, a privileged brat who's now deceased. And God rest her soul, Gloria Sutterfield, has two sons. Alex Murdaugh, the lawyer, said, sue me, and I'll make sure that you get a wrongful death suit, get money by the insurance company. I'll make sure. He lied to the sons and told the sons, who didn't know anything about law, like many of us that trust lawyers and aren't schooled legally. He did indeed um, mediate her fall and fatal accident, and told the sons that they would inherit $500,000 by this insurance policy. He structured it in payments, which is another cunning, conniving, and evil doing manipulation that lawyers that are not ethical often wield, places where they often wield their power behind the scenes. Again, 12th house, sun, moon, Mercury burned. The sons didn't see a penny of that $500,000, but indeed he's being sued for insurance fraud because the policy, the organized criminal manipulation through the courts that Alex Murdaugh maligned and manipulated was indeed a $4.3 million lawsuit and payout, and he spent it. They say he embezzled money from the funds of the law firm. Again, there's forensic accountants on that right now to make sure that they're not covering their asses, because there's a lot of family involved here and a lot of favors come from that when it's generational. Every little town in all of America and all over the world knows this story. I might link below. You can go see actual police footage of the boating accident that took the life of this decedent Mallory Beach. And in it, one of the kids that was on the boat testified, said, be careful, it's the Murdaughs. Good luck trying to prosecute this or investigate this or arrest their son. Again, that's that maligned and malicious behavior. So, um, Paul Murdaugh's mother and Alec Murdaugh's wife, her body was found at age 52 beside her son, and again killed by an assault rifle. So we've got a lot of paternal issues because we've got a 12th house stellium in that secret hidden house of a burned Mercury, sun, moon, opposing his 6th house of everyday life. And here's where this opposition gets pretty interesting, because his personality and demeanor is somebody that's energetic, outgoing, that needs to be on the go, is always on the move, and I guarantee, because I'm an astrologer and I've read over 6,000 charts, this is not a kind of guy that sat still. He was always on the move, and he always had his hands in some bloody matters. Mars at the top of the chart. As again I said, you'll see Martian people who hail from the planet Mars tribally and in our astrological phrenology have ruddy complexions. They're angry, they're impulsive, they're frustrated, they're kind of controlling. Me first, they want things my way. And his energy in his chart shows he goes for it, and then he gets stopped by some kind of authority in his fathers and grandfathers. This has been going on since the day he was born. He wants to get out there and go, and they put a cold stop to his ideas. And then he's frustrated, and then he's pissed, and then he's drunk, and then he's taking drugs, and then he's manipulating, and he's lying, and he's doing this. Combust Mercury can prove mental illness. The person's demeanor in any kind of conflict is agitated, angry, frustrated, frustrated. It's foul communications. It's intimidating others. It's bullying, and the interpersonal dynamics of where this comes from the rebellion of the little boy whose father is saying, you can't do that. You have to listen to me. That's not the way we do things. And that builds the fire of people that are Martian, that have a lot of Mars in their sun, moon, rising sign, or stelliums is blood comes quick to the cheeks. Blood is quick in the neck and the face, and you'll see this. They often have high blood pressure, and I wouldn't be surprised, though I'm not a medical astrologer, that Alex Murdaugh indeed has high blood pressure. Now, this can come from years and years of alcohol abuse as well, because the capillaries, Mars rules the blood. So we see these bloody features clear in the skin of these characters, Martian, these iron oxide people that with an iron fist and an iron will push their way. They have guns, they like knives. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's got quite the collection of those things as well. He is the owner of a hunting compound that I think is 150 acres where his deceased wife and criminal son were found. Jupiter, Saturn, and Sagittarius and Libra rule legal issues, legal fields, and each have their specialty in astrology. His chart is covered with the proof that his legacy and inheritance would be highly involved in law and order. But the configurations in his chart, well, let's talk about the beautiful ones. He's got the Sun, Moon, and Mercury trining Jupiter. That's big money. That's family inheritance. That's benefits by the law. And that's for 52 years. The last 5 decades, he's had that kind of favor. His Sun, Moon, and Mercury also trine Neptune. And so I'll lay money that this is a family that went to church from the grandfathers and the grandfathers before in his legacy. He has Neptune also proves scandal and alcoholism too, and he has some compromising aspects there as well to his Venus. So don't be surprised. We see good things and bad things. That's life, you know. Good astrologers don't deal in two-dimensional um, factual and scientific investigations. We don't just say yes or no, good or bad, black or white, because it's much more complex than that. And so he has that favor. He has a sun, moon, and Mercury in a trine to his north node, that he would be born, but his nodes, people listening, astrologers, future students of mine, it's anaretic. And anaretic defines some kind of problem, kind of dying, something legacy dying. And he's brought great shame on the name Murdaugh. And he's brought great shame to the law firm and great shame to his living son. Now, in another criminal investigation going on, Alex Murdaugh paid his best friend, someone that he procured money for in a legal situation when he represented him, to shoot him in the head. That went awry. That fatal shot. Can you imagine asking your best friend to shoot you in the head? Like, how ridiculous and mentally disturbed is this individual? But he did it again for the manipulation of Lady Justice when his son living, his only son living now, named Buster, would have inherited $10 million. He's on trial for that too. And his attorney is trying to say he's an addict. And people that have worked in law firms for their careers know how to try to manipulate and wiggle around. And we're going to watch and see on the world stage in the news lots of this. This trial, I hope, is public. So he's got agitation born in his blood and cold authority. And people that are alcoholic, we know, they're cold sons of a bitches, excuse my French, and bastards when the hangover comes the next day until they get their next drink. And then we watch them go through these mentally ill stages of euphoria, controlling, threatening. Alcoholism is a witchy alteration of the chemicals in the brain and the blood. And he's played with lots of chemicals, and so did his son, and likely inherited alcoholism. A lot of us watching this video and are born unto male members of the family and our grandfathers and great grandfathers that fought in the war. When those guys came home, a lot of them drank. All of us have this in this legacy of drug use wasn't so prevalent and so accessible as it is today in this 20th century. Back then, in the 19th century, it was booze. Our grandfathers would drink away the nightmares and memories of the things they saw in war. And if that's happened to you, comment below. And have you ever thought about that? And then that legacy gets passed on because all disease comes from habit. Most disease comes from habit. So when it's the thing for men to sit around and drink, their sons think that's how you be a man. And then they sit around and drink. And so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes. It's the same thing with modern day drug use. People see daddy doing that or mommy doing that. That's the way they grow up. That's the way they live. They more easily do it than those of us that didn't have that kind of an upbringing. And so that's why legacy readings are so interesting. Um, and I hope that you're finding this webinar or this video interesting. So crimes, critters, and cruelty is the subject. Today you're watching the firstborn analysis of this series that involves Alex Murdaugh. We're going to go a little deeper into it as time goes on because astrologers can forecast into the future any date that's given us, and we can absolutely historically, archaeologically, but digging into the stars of events that have happened in the past. Because this character criminal in question, being charged with so many crimes and linked to so many other disgusting events in his 52 years, we'll be looking at those dates too as well if I get enough interest. And if you know this family personally, by all means, comment below and have me look up certain dates. I'm happy to do that. This is so interesting. The Saturn, Mars, Pluto, Uranus, back to the money. So Venus represents money and material goods, the things we desire and what we want. We know this family are billionaires. They've been around for 100 years. He's got his Venus squaring Uranus. And that's a lot of instability and a lot of monkeying around with money. Uranus is also the higher octave of Mercury. So we've already got a mentally unstable individual who's got a lot of issues mentally that is making a mess of money. And it's being proven right now. His Venus is squared Chiron. So the money that he pretended that he was going to help the sons of the Murdaugh maid that supposedly fell down the stairs but now is being considered a suspicious crime, he was maligned in the handling and dealing of these settlements and disbursements of money. And that's proven in his chart. His Venus has a semi-square to his midheaven. And the midheaven is our reputation in the world. It is our career, if we have one. And again, we see that. His Neptune in Scorpio. Neptune is nicely, likes to be in Scorpio, I should say, because it's a water sign. But this can also be the signature of alcoholism, drug use, and it clearly shows that there's a lot of potential for that in his chart. And that's squaring his Uranus in Leo. Leo's in the second house in his chart, and this is the axis of sex and money. So I'm sure he had some very weird sexual inclinations. And Leo is the father. He's the father of a child accused of murder in this boating accident. He is the son whose father we know held some things over his head. He's got that combust Mercury to the sun. So he had a problem with authority early on, and he was probably a little bad boy. Definitely mischievous with the characteristics of his chart. So Jupiter is legal affairs. Sagittarius is legal affairs. They're in his sixth house of everyday monkeys, his everyday dealings and affairs. And yeah, this is a very interesting case. He's being sued by his family for stealing millions of dollars from the law firm. He's got his Chiron squaring Venus and Taurus, mishandled funds. That's clearly being proven. And he was born privileged, and we are witnessing its many consequences. I'm very interested in the psychology of the sons and daughters of this inherited money. So if you're aware of more crimes that have happened that have a little legacy situation going on, please get a hold of me. This is me, Lori. I hope you've enjoyed the preview for the very first series of my brand new Crimes, Critters, and Cruelty. And please feel free to comment below about what you think about this, if you're following it, if you're interested in it. And I'll add some links and videos at the end of this. And please feel free to send me the names of some more inherited brats, the sons and daughters of filthy rich money, and especially the legal and criminal twists and turns. I'm interested, and I really enjoy this analysis. I hope you do too. So until I see you again, we're going to be looking closely at the characters involved and the crimes involved with an astrological, cosmological stint. Take care, and I will see you soon. Check out my Three Keys Astrology YouTube channel and check me out the videos that I produce for Astrolata. Some of the crime stuff that I've already done, beginning with Britney Spears' conservatorship on July 14, is there for you to access. And by all means, if you want to study astrology with me, you better jump in quick, because if this thing blows up like I think it's going to, I'm not sure how long I'll be teaching astrology. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.